Going east and west, a two-lane Shields Avenue. And that nice farm operation there is now Manchester Center, the southernmost major shopping center based upon the population center of Fresno.
The Manchester Shopping Center was a revolutionary project that transformed Fresno from a dated, small-minded town to a modernized city, and it was thanks to one man, Chester Arthur Bergfeld. Chester was an ambitious man who was well known around Fresno for his aspirations in business. So much so that when he was seen around Fresno, people would say, "Oh, there's that Manchester," which is where the name Manchester came from. Get it? Manchester. He was a man named Chester. Funny, right? However, it wasn't until a few years later in 1955 that our Manchester would get to build the shopping center that would put him on the map. Built in 1956, the Manchester Mall was originally advertised as an outdoor shopping center located at the corner of Blackstone and Shields. Over time, it evolved into a more modern indoor shopping center, offering everything a shopper could dream of, supplied with air-conditioned stores and a variety of services all in one place. It quickly became the largest shopping center Fresno had to offer. And because of that, the Manchester Shopping Center began to revolutionize the social and economic aspects of Fresno. Fresno County's economy was heavily based on agriculture. The small town grew on this foundation, but today it is a thriving town with almost 500,000 people. This is due to the rapid growth in both its retail and residential areas. This growth occurred along Blackstone Avenue, or as some people call it, the spine of Fresno's growth. On this avenue, the Manchester Shopping Center was built in 1956 and would be later followed by other shopping centers and malls such as River Park. Fresno's growth, however, did not occur over midnight. After World War II, the small town experienced rapid changes with small suburban growth and an increase in housing stock during the 1950s. During this decade, the population of Fresno was about 90,000 to 147,000. This influx of people was due to two groups. The first group was the people from Oklahoma and Texas who moved to escape the Dust Bowl in the 1930s. The majority of these migrants were farmers who were seeking new opportunities for farming. The second group arrived in Fresno earlier than the Dust Bowl migrants. Beginning in 1881, Armenians began to immigrate to the United States to avoid persecution in their homelands. Over time, they ended up in Fresno, and by the time the 1950s had come, they were vital farmers and landowners in the valley. An additional group of individuals were the Mexican Americans. In the Fresno area, harvesting and planting of all the crops were done by a great number of Mexican immigrants, but in the census, it appears that this group was not included. In post-World War II Fresno, there was a high demand for convenient shopping. With all the new suburbs, Fresno was growing away from its spine and expanding out. With additions to new shopping centers and neighborhoods, the old businesses were suffering. Many people weren't worried about going out of their way to shop now that they had brand new motorized vehicles. For them, it was the wow factor of brand new shopping centers, like the Manchester Shopping Center. This shopping center was a world of wonders for the residents of Fresno. It was the fresh breath of air that they all wanted. It gave more modernized options to shopping. The idea for the shopping center, however, came from Chester Bergfeld. Chester was a savvy businessman who took note of this 100% population increase that Fresno experienced during the time period from 1940 to 1955, and he decided to capitalize on it. He bought a 160-acre plot of land for $30,053,000 from the state of California at the intersection of Blackstone and Shield Avenue. Bergfeld set aside 120 acres for a 375-house residential development that was called Manchester Park, and left 40 acres for a shopping center that would later become the Manchester Mall, or as he would officially name it, Manchester Center, in 1955. However, during the time of construction, the property had a problem. It was 3 feet below the grade due to moisture. This made the land bad for building, and although many developers before Chester tried to fix it by pouring dirt on it, none of them were successful.
However, Chester Bergfeld was smarter than the other developers. He used his experience with oil pipelines and made a deal with the Fresno Irrigation District to set up a system with automatically triggered pumps to move the excess water into a nearby canal for crops to use. He turned an impossible situation into one that would benefit not only him, but the farmers in the area. Brilliant, right? When the Manchester Mall opened in 1956, it was a booming business, which signified the additional of 43 stores that were added due to the rapid demands of Fresnans. Most shops in the mall were either local or outlets to regional chains, with the exception of Sears, that provided new job opportunities for the residents in the valley. In the late 1950s and in the early 1960s, the Manchester Center was the only foreseeable option for shopping outside the downtown area. The mall was ideal for teenagers, and it gave them another cooler option to downtown shopping and a newfound popularity with the most current variety of shops that downtown could offer. Because of its vast popularity, the mall underwent additions in 1988, adding 120,000 square feet to the mall for a whopping $7.5 million. The mall didn't just revolutionize the economy, but also the society around it. The Manchester Center provided a new environment for people of all social classes to meet. Along with its extensive array of shops, it provided a welcoming atmosphere for everyone. They offered events like Carnival Days, an event that gave the new Manchester Center even more popularity. It brought new shops to the center, and one fun fact is that the mall even had a carousel at one point. This change was obvious to the residents of Fresno, so luckily for us, we were fortunate enough to have an interview Chester Bergfeld's son, Thomas Bergfeld, to get more personal and insightful view of the mall.
Who I am, I'm Tom Bergfeld. My father was Chester Bergfeld, and he was the Manchester. Well, he built homes, number one. He financed them and he built them. And this tract came up for sale, and nobody in Fresno wanted it. They just didn't see the purpose in it, and it was 3 feet lower than the street, so that was a big problem. Nobody bid on it but him. He fully owned the property in June of 52. And he already had a subdivision map ready for it, with 450 homes, apartments, and 40 acres reserved for the shopping center. One of the selling points is that it is the center, and it's almost, the funny thing is, it's almost the geographical center of California. It's both. It was both. It was both. It was, for one thing, they said it couldn't be done. You can't do it. Well, he ended up buying the property, which they said, who can do that? They still don't know where he got the money for that. I guess the mortgage company supplied that, but, oh no, New York Life. That was a co-signer on it, New York Life Insurance Company. Then they said, you can't put a shopping center together. That's too big a project for a guy like you. Well, it was part ego, but then also there was big money in it. Shopping centers were brand new at that time. Regional centers were unheard of in the Central Valley, especially San Joaquin Valley. The downtown merchants fought him tooth and nail. They did not like it at all. The reason being, it would take all their business away. But the people couldn't wait. They were buying the houses in the tract, right and left. And as the center got built out, more and more people came instead of going to downtown. One of the biggest tenets of a shopping center is free parking. You paid $5 for half a day or something. Well, people, they thought it was ridiculous when there's a shopping center out there where they could park for free. So one of the catches of a shopping center is free parking. With my dad, and I always went with my grandmother because she just lived 2 blocks away. And my grandmother shopped at Sears and all the Woolworths and all those stores there. She shopped. We would walk from her house as a kid. My grandparents would pick me up from my elementary school, daily school, take me over there for the weekend, spend the weekend, go around with grandma and shop at the stores. And Dad, he would take me, well, especially at Christmas time, he would take me to the center. And because there were all kinds of celebrations, there were all kinds of promotions going on, so we did that. But my mother, on the other hand, Chester's wife, never shopped at Manchester Center. She didn't. She would shop at different shops in the Tower District, and she'd go downtown because that's where Magnan was and a lot of other shops that she liked. But she didn't want too much to do with the shopping center. She hated the shopping center. It took up too much of his time. Not that shopping center, not Manchester. No. The heck of it is that the area, not only the shopping center, but for a huge, huge area, to this day, people call it, well, we live by Manchester, it's over by Manchester, you know, the one by, it's an area. And it goes all the way from, I'd say, Maroa, past Dakota, all the way to Gettysburg almost, and back south to I don't know how far, but it's a whole area. Now, my dad ever would have imagined that an entire area of Fresno would be named Manchester. I don't know. And there's Manchester School on Dakota there, Manchester Elementary. Now they call it Manchester Gate. But he never copyrighted the name, so people just were free to use it. And to this day, it's a whole district, Manchester district. So whether the center ever comes back as a shopping center, I doubt. But at least the area will be always, I think it'll be always called Manchester.
Today, the mall takes up to 660,000 square feet of space without the large Sears department. Sadly, it is now a shell of its former self. With empty stores and vacant halls, the Manchester Mall appears to be a ghost town, void of any signs of life or activity, even after an attempt to revive it in 2018, which was not successful. In the past, Manchester Mall brought Fresno into a new era thanks to the dedication and effort of Chester Bergfeld and his team. Unfortunately, today it has been reduced to a relic of the past. But who knows? Maybe it can be returned to its former glory. Thank you for joining us on this journey throughout the history of the mall.